Hello, welcome back to another BUpodcast episode. I'm kind of excited for today's episode. I say that about everything. I know. I'm sorry. But I'm actually going to be sharing what it's like to content create. Before I really started doing it, I was always like, wonder what it's like, because we just see the pictures on Instagram. We just see the pretty stuff. So I thought we would just have like a fun episode and kind of talk about some things that I have learned so far, and I'm just going to be sharing some of that with you. And if you're watching, you probably see how many hand gestures I make. Before we begin, if you are new here, hi, welcome. The BU podcast stands for Beautifully Unfinished, and that just basically embodies the fact that as a daughter of God, you're beautiful, but you're unfinished, and that's okay, because I am too, and so is your friend at church, so is your friend at school. Like, we are all at different seasons of life, but that's okay. We are all beautiful, and God loves us, and we need more of Him, right? We need to be more like God and less of ourselves. So I want to encourage all of you to be you, which is beautifully unfinished, and, not the world's version of being you, but the version that says, God, I'm unfinished and I need more of you. Being a content creator, the first and most important thing that has to happen is you have to know your purpose and your intention. Okay? That means you need to find your why. Why am I doing this? Am I just doing it to gain as many followings as I can? Because if I have a lot of followers, that's going to make me feel like I'm important and that I have more value. Or don't do it for that, because there are ebbs and flows with this, okay? So this means that there are going to be seasons where you are growing, and then there's going to be seasons where you're going to be putting in a lot of work, and nobody's going to be following, nobody's going to be helping you, and it's going to suck, and it's going to be hard. And if you are doing it only to make yourself feel better as a person, you're going to quit, because you're going to feel like you mean nothing. You're going to be like, I'm doing all this work in, and I'm not good enough. That's why I'm not growing. That's because I'm not prettier. I'm not as pretty as this girl is. Look at her. She's growing and I'm not. And I'm doing the same stuff. So you're going to internalize it and then you're going to be done. No. But you have to find your why. The thing that keeps you going even when you feel like you're not getting anywhere. Even when it feels like you're taking 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. What is your why? For me, it's always been, I want to be a light and an inspiration, and to speak about the goodness of God, but to do it in a relatable way. I want to be the person that isn't afraid to talk about the things that some people don't want to talk about. For the Christians, there are a lot of things that we don't really like to talk about because we think that it's too taboo. But I feel like if nobody talks about it, then people of God can't really be equipped it properly, and we are bombarded by so much mess. So I want to be a girl, a woman of God that says, hey, I know how you're feeling. I get it. I've been there. You're not weird. You're not wrong. You're not like messed up. This is what we can do. This is the best way. This is, a way that is going to help you. So I've always wanted to be relatable. I may not know you personally, but I want to be that person that kind of helps you just feel like you're not alone, and that helps you just feel a reminder that I'm going to keep going. So when you are having a rough day, you can look at my content, you can listen to my podcast, and just get that extra inspiration to keep yourself going. I can't be your best friend and hold your hand every day, but I just want to bring some positivity and godly positivity into your life. So that's always been a big why for me. When you work on that why, you have to remember that your why should not be based necessarily on the amount of followers you have. Because when I first started, it was so hard. It was feeling like 100 people, that's not a lot. But you know what? Every time I thought that way, I would say to myself, you know what, God, even if it is just one person that I impact, it's been worth it. Even if it's only one person that hears my testimony, but it changes their life and it brings them closer to you, it's been worth it. And so, yes, do I get excited that this community is growing? Yes, it excites me so much. But at the end of the day, I tell myself it's not so much about the numbers, because you can have a lot of people following you, but that does not mean they're interacting. That doesn't mean that they actually care. You want to impact, and it's kind of like that mentality of quality over quantity. So that's why I try so hard to connect with you guys. Like, I want you to feel like I actually care, because I do. And so quality over quantity. Let's see, comparison and boundaries. Whew. For like your mental health. And this is something I'm still navigating and I'm still learning. And I think I always will be, because I feel like as my platforms grow, there's going to be new scenarios that I am in. And so I might have to pivot and change things. But this is just something that I have learned, so that's why I'm sharing it. I have to wrestle with comparison sometimes too, because I go through seasons where my content isn't growing as much, and then I'll look at somebody else and be like, wow, like how, like what are they doing that I'm not doing? And you just kind of have to accept that everybody grows at different rates. There's algorithms to the platforms, and sometimes they just happen to fall in the favor of other people. You just have to I just have to keep going, and that's what I do. And I have to fight off those thoughts of, well, she puts out better content, because that is naturally the first thing I always want to think is, well, maybe she's doing something I'm not doing. Maybe her content's better. No, I have to say, no, she does different content, and it's great, and it's amazing, and you go, girl. But Samantha, you need to stick to your content. Don't change it because you're not seeing the fruit that you want. Keep growing, like keep, like a plant, your plant might not be growing at a rapid rate, but you're going to keep watering it, right? You're going to keep giving it sunlight because it needs those things to grow. And so that's how I have to be with my social media sometimes. Even if I'm not seeing what I want to see immediately, I keep going, and I don't change my branding. I don't change my message. I don't change my why, but that stays solidified. And I create boundaries by, if I'm going through a season like that, I practice muting certain people for a while. Not because they've done anything wrong, but because I realize that, hey, I'm going through a season right now, and it's not my best. And I want to overcome it, so I'm going to kind of just remove this obstacle for a moment. And when I'm feeling more, back to myself, then, it's not a personal thing, but I practice that myself. I do that because you can. There's nothing wrong with it. We have that choice. We have that function. We have that ability to do that on platforms, and it's a great thing to utilize. So I do it. Don't be ashamed if you need to do that too. Another thing that I have learned is support, okay? Meaning, there are people who will support me in private, but they will not support me in public, and vice versa. I have had people in my life that claim to be my friend, and they will rant and rave to my face about, oh, that's such a great thing you're doing. That's so much needed. But then the moment I ask them, well, can you share it on your Instagram for me? Because I'm trying to get it out there. They won't. They'll be like, oh, yeah, but they never do. Or, they won't actually listen to any of my podcast episodes. I'm being real. This is like the tea, okay? We're talking tea here, okay? And you know how frustrating that is? To say to my face, I support you, I will help you, and then when you ask for help, they don't want to. And the most frustrating thing is when you know that some of them do it because at the end of the day, when they're in front of you, they're happy for you and they say they want you to succeed. But then when it comes down to it, they're kind of jealous and they don't want to see you succeed. So they don't help you because they think if I help her and she succeeds, like, I don't want to see that. So I'm not going to help her. I'm not going to support her. And that's kind of sad to me because here's the thing. People who are close to me, they will get to be benefiters of my blessing. It's that plain and simple. My blessing will somehow bless you. So why would you not want to be part of my blessing? I don't get it. I never will. So a lot of times it's a one-woman show over here. And that's frustrating because there are so many moments where I feel alone. There are so many moments where I feel like I don't have that friend circle that is like, yeah, you got this. And then they're like, go listen to my friend's podcast. And like helping you, and they like self-plug. Well, no, I'm a self-plug. But helping you promote. And that's hard, because I have seen so many girls do that for their friends. And I'm going to be honest, I don't have that. I didn't have that. Everything, the number that I have gotten to, yes, like I'm talking about people like I'm not talking about any of you ladies that are listening that I don't know personally or that are not in my life personally, okay? And if you are, I don't mean anything derogatory. I'm just kind of sharing what I have learned or what I've seen and how it has affected me and how, I perceive it, and my perceptions can be wrong. I'm not saying that my perceptions are always right, but I'm just saying I never had that, and I always wanted it. But, a lot of what I've done, it hasn't been because I've had tons of people in my inner circle that have social media building me up on there. It's been just me being consistent, me asking God, if this is your will, then you open the door. Like, I'm doing this unto you, and I pray that you give it favor. And he has been. So that's also a key. If it's meant to be, consistency and faithfulness is key. Ooh, kind of just rhymed. Another thing. People think they know me. Look, I get it. I share a lot of things on social media. I share my personal life. I get it. You think you know me. The bottom line is, though, is you don't know everything about me. And I don't want you to know everything about me, because even I need things private. There may be things that, like, I will share eventually, but there are seasons that I go through that I don't talk about publicly, because I just want to go through it with my boyfriend, with his family, and my family, myself, God, and then when I'm ready, I'll share it. But there are certain things that I have to figure out for myself without the opinions of everybody else on social media, because there are so many of you that are so sweet. So many of you, and you guys DM me, and it really means everything to me. It brings a smile to my face, and I'm so thankful. But there are also a lot of people on social media that like to judge and critique and criticize. And when that happens, it can be very difficult to get it out of your head. And then you have to fight that on top of maybe what you're already trying to figure out. And so sometimes it's just easier to keep things private, because people are nasty. And so for my sake, for even honestly, sometimes too, it has to do with my boyfriend. It's not even about me. Sometimes it's certain things that maybe, he wants to keep private for a while. Same with my family, because not everything in my life is just about me. It's about my family too. And it's important that I respect their boundaries. And they support me. So I know that they would never ask me to do anything that would seem unfair. But I have to respect that there may be things about their life that they wouldn't want me to publicize. And even though it's in my life, I do that out of love and respect towards them. But, there's a lot of things that I might share that I have people being like, you do that? You, like, I know one time when I was in Spain and I posted, I think, a video of me, like, hugging Daniel, and we kissed on the lips. My mom was there. I had people going, oh, you're doing the deed. They just automatically go straight to that. And I'm like, first of all, my mom is with us, okay? Like, there's only so much you can do with parental guidance around, okay? And I think that's a very big judgmental thing to do, because yes, just because people fall and they make mistakes, it does not make them disgusting. It does not make them terrible people. It makes them human. And not everything is foolproof, okay? But it's very challenging, and it's very annoying that people jump to that conclusion and they don't know the context. And I can't give people the context for every single thing I do in my life. I can't put a picture of us holding hands and then say, by the way, I think, like, also we were in Spain. The first time we went to Spain, my mom and I, on the last day of our visit, we went to his family's place and we hung out there as a family. And Daniel took me into the office to show me a song he was working on. And then he played his guitar for me. Well, I showed a part of that on the video, and some people said some things. See, we're tea time. Tea time. But the crazy thing is that door was open. We weren't alone in the room with the door locked. The door was open. His mom, his sister, his brothers, they were all in the house, in the living room, right outside that door. We could hear them, they could hear us. But they didn't know the full context. And I should not have to sit there and every time I post something, be like, the door was open, the door was not locked, these are the people that were in the house, blah, blah, blah. But I have to now be careful about the certain things that I do show because I just don't want to deal with it. There's just sometimes things that I'm like, I don't want to deal with it. And yes, I love to be relatable, and I do that to the best of my ability. But social media is a different world, and I have to be wise about what I share and how much of it I share. Because I get judgment from non-Christians, but I get judgment from Christians. And honestly, that to me is worse, because as Christians, you should understand that if you don't really know me, you should not be making judgments on me, because you're not in my life. You don't know me as a person. You don't know how much integrity I have, my character. And I'm not saying that I would never fall short and that I have not fallen short. It just means that you don't have that place to say you shouldn't do that because you're gonna do this. No, you should not be judging me right now, ma'am. I'm sorry, I get so heated about this because it aggravates me. I had some girl tell me that it was a sin to celebrate my birthday and to post pictures about it because I was idolizing myself. You learn with those people though to just ignore it, because like those are people that don't really want to listen. They just want to I guess that was so embedded in them, so it's like oh my goodness. Okay, so the last one is I'm still learning, growing, and changing. This basically means that I'm never going to be the same as like a person. 2 years from now, I'm going to be a different person than the girl that you see right now on this video or listening on this podcast. And that's okay. Now, my desire is to grow and to be better. But that means that everybody in their walk with God is constantly being taught new things. God is constantly, pruning. God is constantly showing and teaching. And so that could even mean that a conviction I have now, I might not have 2 years from now. Or a conviction I don't have, I may have 2 years from now. That does not mean that you should then sit there and say you're inconsistent. That does not mean that people should then say, you've changed. You're not the same that you used to be. You're not as on fire for God as you. Just because somebody goes into a different season in their relationship with God does not mean that they are less than. It just may mean that God is maybe calling them to give up more in a season of their life. Like, let's just say, for example, God convicted me and said, Samantha, I don't want you to watch TV anymore. I might share that on social media, but that does not mean that then I would be saying to you, you should do the same thing. And that should not mean that you should look at me and go, how dare you ask that? That's crazy. That's stupid. That's ridiculous. No. It would mean that I'm doing something personally unto God. And I may only do that. Maybe I would only feel led to do that for a year or a month. That's a long time, but you know what I'm saying. And then God may eventually come back and say, all right, you can watch TV. Maybe he just wanted to see if I would be willing to give that up for him. And I did. And then in that season of giving that up to him, I grew closer to him because instead of watching TV for 2 hours, I read his word more. Not everything is a biblical doctrine thing. Some things are just personal convictions and things that God leads us and guides us through. And there are things that I may not know yet that I will know 5 years from now, and then I'm going to share it. There may be things that maybe I've shared now that I may come back and say, hey, you know what? I know I used to say this, but I see it differently a little bit now. But that could be because of my experience. My experiences shape people, and God is still teaching me. I am not at my finish line. I am beautifully unfinished. And so I'm going to change as a person. And just because I change, and just because maybe I may have a different belief or a different conviction, I feel like this is something so important because I see so many people in our culture do this. They think that if you follow somebody and then they do something, or they believe in something that maybe you don't fully agree with, that you have to unfollow them because you have to then like you can't like them at all. And I think that's ridiculous. What happened to like being able to respect people's own choices but still being their friend? That means if you know, are Pentecostal apostolic and you find out that, okay, she wears a bracelet and you don't wear bracelets, but let's say I do, because I don't feel a conviction wearing one bracelet on my wrist, and you feel the need to unfollow me because of that, I think that's a bit crazy. Because at the end of the day, if we align in so many other aspects of life, one thing is going to cause you to look at me and go, I don't like her anymore. I'm sorry, but at that point, I would then go, I think your problem is a little bit bigger than my bracelet. I think that's a very big, like, judgmental thing, because God doesn't even do that with us. So why do we do that with our brothers and sisters in Christ? And, you know, so I just say this because I've had people do that, and I think it's frustrating. I think it's pathetic. And I think that we all need to just realize and learn that everybody, even with God, are on different wavelengths and are on different seasons and different like places in their walk with God. And the best thing that we can do, if you are somebody that's more mature in God, then help the person that is learning. And if you are somebody that is new in your walk with God, then find somebody that is mature and that can help you grow. Not by forcing, not by demanding, not by saying you have to do this, but that just leads by example, and that says, hey, this is awesome, and if you need any help, if you have any questions, let me know. I'm here to pray for you. I'm here to help you, yada, yada, yada. And so if I can be that girl for you, great, cool. I know I keep saying this, but I am in the works with something, and it's kind of been slow moving because it's very intricate, and I don't really know exactly how to present it yet. But I haven't thrown this out, actually, so I just thought about this. On Instagram, I have a broadcast channel on there. It says Just for Girls, or Just for Us Girls. Join that if you're not already a part of it, because I involve you guys so much more than just my Instagram. I do polls on there asking your opinion on content that I want to post or publish. And sometimes I make designs for things and I'm like, I like both. I don't know which one. And so then I just kind of put it in that chat, and then I share encouragement as well. I share maybe just random thoughts I'm having, just kind of fun stuff that the other people don't see, or they may see later. So you just kind of get like a preview, special access. So if you want to join that, I would love to have your help. Yeah, so don't forget, it's called Just for Us Girls. So it's a totally different day. Actually, it's a different week. And I realized that I had forgotten to talk about one other point that is something I've been learning. I forgot to touch on like know your value, because there's things that I have learned a lot, and sticking to what you think is the best way, because I've had people, even people closest to me, question me and make me feel like I'm not going to succeed or I'm doing it wrong. I need to do it like how the other people do it. I need to do it this way and do it that way. But I would have to just stick to what I believed was true to myself and what I felt like was the best avenue for me, because not everybody succeeds the same way. And so I had to really just remember my value and remember that I'm the one building this thing from the ground up, with the help of God, of course, but like I'm the one with the vision. I'm the one that's praying. I'm the one that's doing all the editing, that's taking the photos and reaching out to brands and all this stuff, right? So it's like someone who has no experience is not going to sit here and tell me how I should do what I'm passionate about. It doesn't mean that you can't maybe hear, but like I would just have people act as if they knew And I'm like, you're not the one looking at your analytics. You're not the one like researching and figuring out. And sometimes analytics are wrong. Like sometimes you just learn what works for you. And sometimes the way to succeed and the way to fulfill something is not by doing everything else, like what everyone else does. Sometimes you just have to be consistent with your vision and give it time to grow, give it time to like really be planted, and take like to bear forth fruit. It doesn't happen overnight. And so that's something I had to learn. I had to just to tune out people's, like, even if they were trying to like say positive things, you can always hear those underlining tones like, oh, that's cool. And you could just tell that they didn't think it was going to be possible. They didn't think that you were going to be able to do it, because they would be comparing you to these other influencers or whatever that had like over hundreds of thousands of people. And it's like they started somewhere too. Sure, some of them went viral, but okay. Like not everybody goes viral. Some people just work years to get where they are, And God forbid. So I really had to just remember, like, Sam, this is you. This is you and God, and you believe in what you feel passionate about. You believe in your burden, and it doesn't matter if nobody else believes in it. You have to remain, So that was something I really had to work on. And then that has started to bleed over into working with brands. As I'm growing, as my community is growing, I'm having more and more people reach out to me, which is fantastic. It's amazing. But the problem is now, because there is such a big pool of young women wanting to be quote unquote influencers, there's a lot of people now that brands can reach out to. And so now it's getting harder and harder to find brands that want to pay us for our time, because at the end of the day, yeah, when you start, it's great. Your first thing is just to get free stuff. Like that's a huge step. But as you get more and more brands reaching, you want to get to a point where you're getting paid more. And I have I have had collaborations where I've been paid, but now because I'm growing and I have way more than what I was, now I'm really trying to get to a point where it's more consistent. And it's been a little rocky so far, because I feel like what's happening is so many brands know now that, okay, well, if we don't get her, there's another girl that's close to her following count that we can just ask them and she'll do it for free. So like I get it. I get that you don't want to spend the money, but this is where, again, my value. I know what my value is, and my value is, you like my work, that's great. I appreciate that, but it takes time. It's not like this is my full-time job where I just get to sit at home and have fun filming content. Like I have a morning job. I then have to come home and plan and look at the weather and check my schedule and plan out my outfits. And then you have to set up, and you have to, like your room is a wreck by the time I'm done filming reels, because you're just trying to get changed, because you got to film in daylight. That's the best time. You have to like clean up after. You have to then sit down, transfer everything from your card to your editing software. Then you've got to sit there and edit, and it takes time. And then you have to publish. You have to think about what you want to say. You have to make sure you have all the right hashtags, and then you got to share to your story. And again, if these brands want you to do a reel, photos, they want you to share on your story and link the website, like that all takes so much time. And my value to me, my time is valuable to me. My creativity is valuable to me. And if brands don't want to see that, then that's okay. I am having to, at the place I'm at now, I'm having to be a little bit more strategic, and I'm having to be a little bit more picky with whom I work for free. If I love the brand and I think that they're going to benefit my future, and like we're going to grow a relationship that will lead to payments, then okay, great. But some brands reach out to me and I'm like, I don't know who you are. You've got cute stuff, but I know you could pay me, and you want to claim you have no budget to pay me. You're not even saying, okay, well, what is your range? And then you're not even coming back with like, well, we can't do that, but how about this? Like something. So I'm like learning that, okay, you know what? I can't, because my plate is getting full between the podcast, between working with brands and all this stuff, and my life is changing. So like I have to get picky, and I'm trying to learn that that's okay.
it's okay, because as you grow, more and more brands will see your value. And if they don't see your value for the way that you want to be treated, then that's fine. Go find somebody else. But I know, and I have to believe that there is going to be brands that are going to see my value that I bring to the table, and they're going to be willing to pay. You have to hold to your value, and that's what I'm learning. And so, of course, like when I first started out and just getting free stuff sent to me, that was great. That was a stepping stone. But you can't do everything for everybody. It's not fair to yourself. And someday maybe they'll come back to me. I don't know. Maybe they never will. But I know that, you know, I know that there will be brands that will see my value. I just have to remember what my value is and put that on the table and say, take it or leave it.
I think that's it for today's episode. I hope it was fun just to kind of hear me talk about things that I've learned. Again, there's probably going to be more things I'll learn, but that's all I've got for now. If you are somebody that's thinking about it and wants to kind of do something similar, um, then these are some things to just consider and to think about. Remember, your why is the most important thing. And if you want to do it unto God, then I would suggest praying about it, because, you know, it does take a lot of consistency. It does take a strong mind to not let certain things affect you and to tear you down. And then do, you know, I hope and pray that if you do decide to do something like this, that you have people to help support you and to be there for you when you are struggling, because that will be really beneficial. So I hope this was fun. Thanks again for all your support and for listening. I love you guys. Thank you so much. And don't forget to be you, because you're beautifully unfinished. God bless. Bye.